We live in a time where intelligent people are silenced, so that people stupid don't people stupid offended. What do you think of this quote? Do you agree with this? Story 1. That sounds like a corollary to Isaac Asimov's famous statement about anti-intellectualism. Anti-intellectualism has been a constant thread winding its way through our political and cultural life, nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge. See the death of expertise, etc. I literally have a doctorate and get told by random Redditors all the time I don't know what I'm talking about. I published a paper specific to the exact scenario Asimov stated, where I pointed out how much of the technology consumer market is filled with people making demands of technology to the extent that consumer product labeling is just a hair short of being a lie because the majority of the consumers don't know enough about technology to understand what the packaging means. Anyway, if I comment here about a specific technological misunderstanding, I'm going to get downvoted to oblivion while some jerk-off with not even a basic understanding of what they're talking about recites some intuitive stuff. What's really crazy about technology, legal, and medicine is that some of the obvious stuff is actually counterintuitive. That's what makes it so hard. See the survivorship bias plane, for example. My legal field comes up every now and then on Reddit, and the amount of intuitive misinformation that is spread is crazy. If I want to weigh in, I need to first explain why OP is wrong before explaining how it actually works. I honestly can't bother with the ensuing arguing most of the time, and thus the misinformation continues to spread instead. It takes way more effort to debunk bad arguments than it does to spew them out. My husband has just finished his PhD in education policy. Talk about a poop show. Turns out that having gone to a school does not qualify your opinions on how systematized education on a national scale should be run. I attended a focus group that revolved around a water treatment facility dealing with PFAS contamination and questioning who's responsible for correcting the issue. It was a train wreck listening to some of the others speak. At least a third of the people argued that the facility should be shut down and everyone should return to well water. I pointed out the contamination was likely in the well water as well. It was just that without the regular, in-depth water testing the facility provided, contamination in the well water was being missed. They argued that well water must be better because their hair feels weird after they shower in the part of town that is serviced by the water treatment facility. One of my favorite quotes came from Sidney Farber, who said that at the core of all science is simple measurement. He would later go on to develop the first cure for leukemia. On the other hand, my favorite thing to say is that if you aren't sampling for a problem, you'll never know you have one. Feels like that would have applied well to the logic of people who were against COVID testing and contact tracing. I remember someone locally who seriously proposed that we could lower the COVID incident rate by reducing testing. Story 2. I sometimes feel like it's more of a case of intelligent people seeing things for how complex they are, and that what is true and right does not always fit into a clear narrative. Stupid people shout simple truths very loud, and make connections that make sense in their clear, simple narrative, and are therefore given a lot more attention. Stupid people will often be offended if something does not back up their very simplistic worldview too, I guess. Having intelligent conversations takes time and effort, and is challenging to the people involved. So it's much easier to have stupid conversations that enforces your own worldview and explains why you are the good guy. On a side note, I also feel like stupid people tend to mix and oversimplify very different complex topics into one. I can't even count how many times I hear people mixing in terms like culture, politics, economics, environment, immigration, education, and dating into the same 10-minute frustration speech when they want to rant about what is wrong with the world and why they're on the good side. Almost everything has nuance. It's daunting for the intelligent and effortless for the ignorant, for they refuse to see the gray scale between the black and white. Story 3. Intelligent people aren't silenced, they're ignored because they don't tell people what they want to hear. We live in a time where stupid people suffer from self-fulfilling prophecies. Also, they know not to waste the effort because it won't change anything. In terms of online conversations, far too often I'll type something up to explain a concept to someone and then delete it before posting because I realize based on their original stance that they aren't interested in engaging in a good faith discussion. They just want to feel correct, and they'll drag things out with straw man arguments and goalpost shifting until you stop responding so they can take your silence as agreement. Every time I interact with them, I end up regretting it. Having hope can be such a large flaw. Same. Glad you didn't cancel your reply this time. Thank you. Same to you. Though I nearly did a post and delete, but decided to let it ride. For online, I would say go ahead and post the original explanation anyway, because there are others that will definitely benefit from reading your perspective. Yes, this. The point is almost never to convince the OP. It's to convince the lurkers. Story 4. I agree to an extent, but also stupid people are silenced plenty, or at least they feel they are. So plenty of stupid people will see this and interpret the silencing as the qualifier for being smart, and think, aha, these people telling me to shut up when I say vaccines cause your dong to fly off are silencing my forbidden genius. While I do think anti-intellectualism is a huge problem in our society, it also caters to more of a low average rather than the actively stupid. It reminds me of an old joke. A JFK conspiracy theorist dies and goes to heaven. He meets God, and God tells him, "You can ask me any question you want." And of course, the man asks, "Who shot John F. Kennedy?" God replies, "He was shot by Lee Harvey Oswald from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. He acted alone." The man sits there for a beat, thinking, then replies, "Holy cow, this goes way higher up than I thought." Story 5. More importantly, we live in a time where intelligent people with strong morals and ethics are avoiding positions of power and authority because they know they will become a target by the establishment of morally bankrupt criminals that salivate over power and have the reins of control. It's closer for me than the rich. It's my neighbors. Running for office was my planned career trajectory, but I live in a rural Midwest small town, so now I have to lay low, wait until all my kids are out of the house before I make an attempt. You'd be surprised at how much power comes from moving up in a bureaucratic role, though, and that's possible for anyone to covertly do. The elected officials make decisions, sure, but the doers make the process and the rules and pave the road to the endpoint. Electeds don't pay attention to the details at the local or regional level. I encourage everyone who wants change to play the long game from the inside, and then ask for forgiveness, not permission. Honestly, at the local level, the elected officials mostly meekly accept the staff recommendations, unless it's a really obvious simple topic. 100% yes. Story 6. Carl Sagan saw it coming. This quote is from 1995, and pretty spot on for where we are today. "I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time, when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues. When the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority. When, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide, almost without noticing, back into superstition and darkness. The dumbing down of American is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content in the enormously influential media. The 30-second sound bites, now down to 10 seconds or less, lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a kind of celebration of ignorance. Carl Sagan. Story 7. This is an ultimate Reddit quote. You can tell by how the comments just assert themselves as part of the intelligent ones while also proudly proclaiming the issue with stupid people is that they believe themselves to be intelligent. You gotta appreciate the irony. There is also something profoundly stupid in considering intelligence as a single, all-encompassing metric that will dictate the way you act, the media you choose to consume. This is a nice, succinct way of explaining why I don't like it. Yeah, same. It's not that it's completely wrong, it's just very Reddit, so I don't like it. Somehow gives me that snotty self-validation vibe, therefore feels very Reddit. I imagine 1,000 minds reading this and going, I'm downvoted often, so I must be smart. If it was said with humility and recognition that you're often the one in the latter category, then it would be a good quote. Instead, it's said in a pointed, accusatory way, making it little more than a fancy insult. Story 8. The intelligent and knowledgeable are sometimes ridiculed and even threatened because what they have to say is what many don't want to hear. Climate change is one of many examples of this. But also some of the more ignorant who do worse than know very little because they mistake their belief in fantasy tales for knowledge are so monumentally ignorant they actually try to apply their bastardized notions of democracy to all and any debates. Such people argue that their ignorant ramblings deserve equal airtime to those with properly informed, educated knowledge born of scientific training and rigor, as well as professional experience. I think social media gives some people the silly idea that their ignorance is the equal of genuine knowledge and experience. It offends their egos to be reminded that maybe they are not in truth the all-knowing, all-wise, always right people they delude themselves into believing they are. Story 9. Agree. It also doesn't help that so many stupid people get enabled and told it's okay. My class in school went on strike once after we learned the bottom class were being taken to a theme park to reward them for completing the term, whilst we were given revision time at school and told that we weren't going as we had to pass our exams. That changed when the top set classes went, what? And sat in protest. Essentially, the underachievers were being rewarded for underachieving, whilst we were being made to keep working as we were being relied on to make the school's results look good. I was training somewhere at work, and there's a clock we use on the machine to tell when the batch is expired. Every 15 minutes, 1/4 of the circle is darkened, and when it hits 2 hours, 2 circles are dark, we have to throw out the batch. She had no idea what I was talking about. Then it hit me, and I said, you don't know how to read a clock, do you? I was scolded for embarrassing her. Story 10. Sort of. Offense has become a tactic to get control over others' actions. I don't agree that it is a tactic only used by stupid people or only used on intelligent people. Many people have a strong urge to control your behavior, and this isn't straightforward if your behavior has no direct impact on them. So many have learned to create an impact on themselves. This used to be done through religion. Your behavior is a sin, will upset the gods, etc. Now a common tactic is to claim your behavior offends them, so you must stop, since it's hurting them by the offense. Since we mostly agree that we should avoid hurting others by our actions, this provides a legitimate basis for claiming you should stop. This can be legitimate, but often isn't. Story 11. Seems pretty accurate, especially in the US, where intellectualism is seen as a weakness, and ignorance is a strength. The sad part is that the people who use this quote in the US, 99% of the time are not the intellectuals, but the ignorant who think they're actually the smart ones. I have been silenced, the man yells into the camera during his Fox News interview to promote a book he wrote. Pretty much, and the book is about how people are too sensitive nowadays, and men are no longer manly, and you can't say racist or sexist or homophobic stuff in public and get a standing ovation like in the good old days. And all that is destroying America. Story 12. I wouldn't say silenced, but ignored, and not intentionally either. People love simple statements, simple solutions, one-liners, and consumption of few-second clips, memes, also force that behavior. So now you have a situation where every problem is reduced to a few words, but reality is very different. The problems of society today are very complex and need to account for many external factors. In most cases, there's really no simple solution that makes everyone happy. So when someone tells a realistic solution, they're ignored because the solution is long and requires compromise, while another person may be just saying, "I will solve X," without going into details, which is way easier to listen to and accept. Story 13. Stupid people think they're smart because smart people have given up arguing with them. Me, 2023. If you want to tell who the stupider person is in an argument, look towards the one getting louder while trying to talk over the other person so they can't be heard, and getting emotionally involved. Also, someone who isn't actively listening to an opposing opinion and taking that information on, but is rather lining up the next comeback or attack without hearing a word, is usually pretty stupid. Smart is listening, learning, and adjusting your opinions based on the relevant facts, not following blind opinions. Story 14. My boss literally told me that calling my racist coworkers fascists is offending them, and not to do it anymore, as it upsets them. I personally think it's more upsetting seeing people's lives ended in Palestine and Yemen than some race supremacists being told what they are. So I agree with it, and it's not just stupid people, but the powerful who exploit their stupidity. Divide and conquer politics. This stuff isn't new, and goes back hundreds of years in most countries, maybe even thousands of years. Populism and scapegoats lead to fascism. The fascist leaders know what they're doing, and most of their followers are too gullible to see what they're really empowering. Story 15. It's more acceptable to brag about how strong you are than how smart you are, because it isn't smart to brag. The difference here is people think strength is attainable by anyone who works out, so it's a virtue signal for hard work. But being quick-witted is inborn for some reason, so bragging about it has the same ick as someone who brags about being born rich. Completely ignores the fact that you have to exercise your brain as much as you do your lats if you want to see comparable results. Also completely ignores the genetic factors that can bolster athletic potential as much as mental potential. Story 16. I totally agree with this. It is a nightmarish period of time where anti-intellectualism is like a trend that's been adopted. People out there are prideful that they can't read. They're prideful that they can't write as well, and how out of touch they are with things like laws, rules, and just general common sense. Reading is too hard. Researching is too hard. People can comprehend things only by a line anymore, and people get offended anyways when you speak a little more than they do and make actual sense. Story 17. We live in the age of information, and which information is filtered to the top is done by an algorithm of the lowest common denominator. This link is an opinion piece on the colonial effect of globalism. This link is a guy getting hit in the nuts going down a water slide. Guess which one is getting more clicks. Guess which one is going to the top of everyone's news feed. Intelligent people aren't being silenced, but no one is paying them for that intelligence in the form of news. Story 18. I agree with the nuance of it, if that makes sense. A huge part of intelligence is to not be offended by others' beliefs and opinions, no matter how much you disagree with them. An intelligent person is comfortable and confident in their views. They are not threatened by others. They are capable of allowing other people's opinions to exist without letting those opinions affect them. Intelligence isn't about what you know. That would be knowledge. Intelligence is your ability to reason and comprehend, and that takes practice and humility. Story 19. It's important to foster open discussions where we can respectfully exchange ideas. I think it's essential to strike a balance, ensuring that intelligent conversations can thrive without silencing voices. We all know diverse perspectives can lead to insights we might never have considered otherwise. One idea is to actively practice active listening and empathy. When we genuinely try to understand where others are coming from, it creates a more inclusive environment for discussion. Story 20. Yeah, I think it's true, but it's hardly new. Galileo had to get special permission to publish his book because he was a smart person and the people in charge were worried about how stupid people would react. And it's not like it went away in between. Hofstadter wrote Anti-Intellectualism in American Life like 60 years ago. All about more than a century of stupid people who didn't like book learning, and the situation hasn't really improved much in the time since it was published. Story 21. I was literally taken aside as a younger adult and asked to tone down my vocabulary because other people thought I was using big words intentionally to make them feel inferior. That was 30 years ago. I think the fact that in 2023 we're seeing a surge in both de facto and de jure book bans in an attempt to prevent people from talking about real issues that affect them is strong evidence that that quote remains depressingly valid. Story 22. It truly depends on context. If by intelligent it's implied they think critically, question improbable outcomes, and source their information from multiple sources with demonstrable facts and results, and aren't swayed by faith or belief, then I would agree to a point. For individuals that meet those criteria, they most likely will also find a solution that will still allow them to share their knowledge. Story 23. In general, no. Most of the people I've met who use that quote are actually nowhere near smart, let alone as smart as they think they are. They lose their crap and get offended at other stuff anyway, and usually bring up the quote to defend expressing awful ideas without getting any pushback, instead of defending harmless nonsense that someone blew out of proportion for no real reason. Story 24. No. Usually the people who say this quote are not intelligent, who think they are intelligent, and usually say this on their platform to thousands, sometimes millions of people. Quite literally the opposite of being silenced. They equate the backlash and consequences of what they say as being silenced. Story 25. I think it would be more accurate to say we live in a time where intelligent people are silenced so that powerful people won't feel offended. Sure, a lot of powerful people are stupid, but a lot of stupid people aren't powerful. No one cares about the opinion of some random idiot, but if that random idiot is in charge, they can deny intelligent people their right to speak. Story 26. Sounds like something I'd see on a bumper sticker on a pickup truck next to the same 4 Let's Go Brandon stickers. The meaning of this statement is interchangeable to fit the intent of the speaker. I think plenty of people are stupid and easily offended, and those same people think I'm stupid and easily offended. Story 27. Generally, I hear these words from people who are stupid, but think they are intelligent. And it's almost always because they think they're being silenced, when in fact they are incorrect and refuse to accept evidence. Story 28. We are experiencing a reality based on a thin veneer of lies and illusions. A world where greed is our god, and wisdom is sin, where division is key and unity is fantasy, where the ego-driven cleverness of the mind is praised, rather than the intelligence of the heart. Bill Hicks. Story 29. If you want to offend some people, tell them lies. If you want to offend others, tell them the truth. Story 30. No, it's more like stupid people are loud and obnoxious, and intelligent people remain silent because they know better than to argue with or be offended by idiots. Story 31. As the old adage goes, to win an argument with an intelligent person is difficult, but to win one with a stupid one is impossible. Story 32. Everyone claims to be intelligent, yet when the actual intelligent speak the truth, you see the dumber stand out. Heard this in some podcast. Story 33. Not so much being silenced as factually incorrect views are allowed and promoted unchecked. Story 34. I disagree in the sense that it's implying it's some new thing. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.